product teardown, I will close a loop. 2 years ago, I negged into it and I told them that they needed to change their payroll onboarding to include savings. I said, this is the biggest way you could drive short term savings in America, and payroll providers are dropping the ball. And Intuit responded, and we ended up doing a collaboration. 2 years later, we've published the findings. Very exciting. So, number one, thank you, Intuit, for listening. Number two, if you have had your product torn down, Monarch, 8 Sleep, Calm, if you guys have had your product torn down, we too can get these types of results. This experiment increased savings by 5x. So, this insight from a product teardown was then built into the onboarding of Intuit's payroll. We added 2 questions, 2 screens, and we drove an increase in savings by 5x. Small changes can have big effects. So I'm going to give you a quick brief on what we did and what happened, but it's a nice, exciting moment where we can say, look, if we actually make a small change at the right moment and in the right way, we can have real behavior change. Okay, so the core idea here came from existing research. As you remember, behavioral scientists aren't people who just dream up new ideas. We actually look at existing research. We look at what's actually worked and what hasn't worked, and then we build our hypothesis based on that. So this core idea comes from retirement savings, where automatic enrollment tends to drive retirement savings. If people are automatically enrolled in retirement savings, you have over 90% of people savings. If they're not, you likely have under 50% of people saving. This is not a preference decision. It's not people hate retirement savings and they don't save, or love retirement savings. It's a fully designed decision. If you're opted in, if you're automatic enrolled, you are saving. If you're not, you are not. So the question we ask is, how do we apply that to short-term savings? Obviously, we just opt people in. Everyone have short-term savings accounts. But legally, you can't do that. Legally, you cannot, Wells Fargo, hello, you cannot create automatically short-term savings accounts for people. That is illegal. And so you do have to ask them. So then the question becomes, how do you ask them? And, we've worked with different banks where we pop something up and say, do you want to create a savings account? And single digits respond to this. It's just not the right time. You're going to a bank to pay your bills. You're logging in to do another task. We can't really shove a savings account in your face and say, can you save? The time that people are thinking about something is the time you want to ask them. And they're thinking about savings at the point that they get their paycheck. At the point that you get paid is when you would actually want to save. You're not going to wake up on a Sunday and transfer money in. You actually think about your money when you're doing a direct deposit and getting paid. So we said, let's pair it with that, which again means the onboarding of payroll. And so what we ended up doing is saying, look, Intuit, you actually have the tech for this. You can do it. In the settings, there's a way to add 2 accounts. We're not inventing something new here. Around 3% of people are already doing this, but can we add it to the flow? And we thought deeply about these decisions about how to add it. I'll give you 2 examples of how we thought about it. So the first one is look, at some level, savings is not as normative as you like. It may be in Eastern countries, but in the US, I don't know what my friends save. I don't know what's in their savings accounts. And so when we're designing this flow, we basically have to say people don't have a clear anchor about what to do or what not to do. And because of that, we want to basically create the path of least resistance to be savings. It's not that we're going to force people to save. It's just that the opposite of that, if the path of least resistance was not savings, it's not like you have a pre-existing norm to fall back on. You really don't have anything. And the research we relied on here was flu shots, where basically if it feels like a continue mindset, the next step is just to get a flu shot versus do you want a flu shot? Go schedule it. That is a different kind of mental model of what flu shots are and how they fit into your health routine. So when you kind of make it the path of least resistance, a doctor schedules for you, more people get flu shots. Great. So how does that translate into an actual design? We just said next. So instead of saying we're set up an automatic savings account, next, it's a continue mindset. Now you have multiple ways to opt out. You could go back. You could say don't set up savings. So we're not forcing people in. We're just creating the path of least resistance. So you're not questioning, is this the right thing for me to do? And the second question we asked is, how do we get people comfortable with the number that they're going to save? And in one world, we could say everyone's going to save $20. Great. So we actually don't think that that's the right answer. We've done an experiment. This is a Common Sense Lab led by Meryl Beasley. We did an experiment where we basically said, look, here's you can open a retirement savings account. It's 3%. Do you want to do it? Versus 10%, 6%, or 3%. You've heard me talk before. We know this is the toddler example. You never ask a toddler to put on a coat. You say which coat you want to put on. Humans work the same way. And so in this case, more people opted into retirement savings with some sense of choice architecture. So that's what we did for this. We said, look, it's going to be 3 options. We're going to have a middle option. We're going to recommend, but they're going to get to choose. It's not a do you want savings? It's which of these amounts do you want to automatically save from your paycheck? But we did have a conundrum, which we didn't know if it would be dollar amount or percentage. We had no idea. And nor did the experts. Our intuitions were across the board. Some people thought that for low-income Americans, having a dollar amount would be much cleaner because you know exactly what's coming out. Other people thought having a percentage would be much cleaner because if you have a low paycheck, then it's a percentage and you're not going to get a lot taken out. People were split, and when people are split, we do an experiment. And so we did an experiment to figure out not just how much do people save when you put it in their way, in the flow, but then which of these variants actually drives behavior change. The key kind of experimental design, a control, 2 conditions, and then we had people afterwards, they actually still had to add their savings account. And so there was a lot of friction. This was not automatic enrollment. People actually had to do something, which was another big learning, is if we could make it fundamentally simpler by syncing their syncing their bank account versus entering or routing an account number, it could be much easier. Okay, we had a lot of folks in this study. People were lower income than the average in our study. We think because it was mostly hourly workers here. When we look at salary workers, they did hit the normal salary. When we look at salary workers, this was on par with the U.S. averages. Okay, drum roll. It worked. So around 20% on average saved relative to a 3% control. More people saved when we asked them in percentage versus dollar amount. I think to me, this means there's a lot of lessons, but one of them is a just ask. So if I'm driving in McDonald's drive-through, they're going to say, do you want fries with that? I probably was thinking about fries, but I wasn't really thinking about fries at the right time. When they asked that, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, sure, great. I'm not against fries, but I just need to be asked at the right time. This is a savings conundrum. Like, people actually do want to save, but if you're not asked at the right time to do it, then it may seem like you don't want to save. So what we did here is intervene during payroll setup at a point where people actually want to do a thing, and it worked. I'll give you kind of 2 other data. So also, by the way, we looked at retention and people changing it, and we have data to suggest that people are not going back and making changes the next month or the month after that. We let the study run for 6 months. So we're fairly confident when we say people want this, that actually they would have gone back into the payroll and made a change within 6 months if they did not want this. The other thing is the friction does matter. And so we had 40% drop off at the point of adding their routing account number. So actually 30% of people actually did want to save. 40% dropped off. And so we did have some level of if we made the flow easier, more people could achieve the intention that they had. Quick other results. Income did not have a strong influence on take-up rates. People did keep it in over time, and turns out recommended works, where most people are choosing the recommended option. So 3.7% in the percentage and $54 on average in the monetary. So the net takeaway here is that we didn't pay people to do anything. They were using their own bank account. We didn't create a bank account for them. Employers didn't have to opt in. This is just adding 2 questions at the right time to a UX flow. Any payroll provider could do this. Banks could do this also on sign up. These are very small interventions that can fundamentally change short-term savings in America. We don't complain about retirement savings, saying people just don't want to save for retirement. We go to the employer and we say, have you opted into automatic enrollment? And I think we need to have that same type of mindset for short-term savings. It's a short-term savings crisis in America. People don't have enough money for a $400 expense. Why are we complaining about this? Why don't we look at the systems that are driving the financial highways and try to make changes to that? Okay. Thank you, Intuit, for participating in this. And if you are any kind of financial company, would love to discuss how you roll this template out. And if you are a company that has listened to these product teardowns, now is the time to reach out. Let's do something together.